Hi, I'm Dr. Frank Liberti. I'm here to give you a preview of the PI Master Seminar. I've actually put together some notes. I might be reviewing them with you so I don't miss anything. I want to just let you know what you could expect at the seminar, and I want to encourage you to review the syllabus so that you can compare what we'll be teaching to what you're doing now in your practice so that you can actually see the difference. But the first thing I wanted to tell you is what is actually different about the Zeus claim system, and it starts by looking at the tricks that the insurance companies have done, especially with their softwares and Colossus, and how they are actually tricking us. Now, here's how they do it, and this is the first area I want to start. This involves the clinical expertise that we're going to review. For example, herniated discs are considered to be a very important factor by attorneys in these soft tissue injury cases. Now, all the insurance companies and all the adjusters are going to do these things to all your diagnoses. The first thing they're going to do is manipulate the trauma line. If you don't know what the trauma lines are, you're going to have a hard time defending it. The second thing they're going to do is you're going to reduce the severity of the injury points. The third thing they're going to do is they're going to drag the injury severity point down to give it a lesser value. Then they're going to reduce the severity to a non-rateable diagnosis or a non-rateable injury. And here's an example of what they can do to a very well objectively qualified MRI positive herniated disc, okay? If you do not state that there is a greater than 50% reasonable medical probability with evidence-based data to show that the hernia or the bulge applies pressure to the thecal sac or spinal cord, they will drag that herniated and bulging disc injury down and give it the value of 2 muscle spasms. Many of us never even knew this before, so you've got to include in your records that there is objective evidence with a greater than 50% degree of reasonable medical probability, evidence-based data that shows the bulging or herniated disc apply pressure to the thecal sac or spinal cord. And in the seminar, we're going to teach you exactly how you can do that, but there are orthoneuro tests that can prove that there's pressure on the disc. There are sensory impairments, there's motor impairment, diminished tendon responses. There are electrodiagnostic tests. We'll look at all of those things. The other thing is, a lot of people don't realize that you need double-digit diagnoses for every Colossus claim. And by a double-digit, we mean 10 or more. Now, here's what's interesting. The same people that own HCFA own Colossus. And when they built Colossus in 1992, their HCFA forms had room for 4 diagnoses. Yet, the same people realized that to make value in a Colossus claim, you needed 10 double-digit diagnoses. It wasn't until recently that they expanded the HCFA form to allow room for more diagnoses. And this actually does get very complex. I'll give you an example, especially if you're a chiropractor, because there are diagnoses that we can and need to make to input value into a Colossus claim. For example, let's talk about mild traumatic brain injuries. There are 4 types of concussions, and there is 1 type of cerebral contusion. The research tells us that from an 8.2 mile per hour rear end impact, which is not enough to produce visible property damage to the vehicle, there's a 50% probability of a cerebral contusion and a 99% probability of 1 of 4 types of concussions. This research is done by Yale University, Orthopedics Divisions, Departments of Highway Transportation, Institutes of Highway Safety. It goes on and on and on. And without even occurring visible property damage, there's still a 99% probability of a cerebral concussion, and they're broken down into 4 categories. So there are 38 questions that you should be asking your patient to determine if they have one of these post-traumatic cerebral contusions or concussions that follow the AMA guides. Now, we're going to teach you those, but when you use Zeus claim, it will automatically ask the patients the questions and then make the determination, identify which type of mild traumatic brain injury, list the findings from the AMA guide, table, chapter, edition, page, formula. So the insurance companies are looking for us to be the best investigators that we can. So you need double-digit diagnoses. We introduced a new diagnosis to our group called mononeuritis, or a pathogenic pain. Let me explain this to you now so you understand. There is a type of nerve pain which goes more than tingling and numbness. It produces more burning, shooting, stabbing pain like electric shock pain. But this type pain lasts longer, doesn't always go away, and is produced without stimuli. Now, this type of pain can be caused by injury to the nerve root, peripheral nerve entrapment, injury to the plexus, and it's quite common. However, in some cases, it bothers the patient so much that they begin to lose sleep. Not only do they lose sleep, but they then begin to lose their appetite. They then begin to go into depression. They then begin to suffer anxiety. In fact, the medication given for that diagnosis is an antidepressant from the medical field. Now, we have to be able to identify when do these injuries begin to produce sleep disorders, anxiety, depression, reduce appetites. And so these are the things that you need to document in your files. Now, there are ways that you can simply ask patients to determine, if they have a sleep disorder, or if they have anxiety, or if they feel depressed, or if their appetites change. But that doesn't mean it's going to become an impairment or qualify as an impairment according to the AMA guides. For example, for a sleep disorder to become an impairment, it has to produce a loss during the daytime, either a loss of function or a loss of socialization, a loss of recreation, a loss of decision making. Something's got to be lost during the day as a result of losing sleep at night. Just losing sleep alone is not an impairment. When you're looking for double-digit diagnoses, you've got to look at everything. So I hope I've given you some information to help you to identify some of those. And this list goes on and on and on. That's why this seminar is a 2-day process. I cannot give you all of these things. But the Unfair Claims Acts the insurers use, the tricks that they use to reduce diagnoses and drag them down so there's no value, is extensive and exhaustive, and I want you to be able to counter that and overcome that. That's one of the things that makes Zeus Claim different. In fact, the questions that you ask the patients and the manner in which you arrive at diagnoses, and then converting those diagnoses into an impairment. For example, a strained sprain will not convert into an impairment. But a sensory loss will, a motor loss will, a diminished deep tendon response will, a disc bulge, a disc hernia will, a ligament tear will, AOMSI will. There are many things, stenosis will. The objective here is to get double-digit diagnoses and diagnoses that actually can convert into an impairment from the 5th edition guides. And then you have to show what chapter, what table, what page, and what formula was used. It gets complex, but these are the things that will take you to the highest level of core competence. So what makes Zeus Claim so highly sought after? And when I say sought after, we are being acquired, or we are partnering with right now about 20 of the more popular electronic health record companies. One factor is certain. Many of these companies and others are continuing to partner with us to make this available to their clients who practice in personal injury. All of these companies have SOAP note programs, and all of these companies feel that their programs are adequate for personal injury until I show them the differences, and now they know that only Zeus can assemble the complex data in the right language format and sequence so that it can interface and input added value into Colossus. And it does it automatically. For example, this is quite a testament to us because these companies could have been our competitors. Instead of reverse engineering this, they realized that's impossible to do. Zeus began development in 1992 and is just now being released. It's almost impossible unless you've had the same background that I've had working with insurance companies. When I beat the Supreme Court in a case just like Zeus, where unfair claims acts were used, that is the same year that Allstate brought Colossus here. Colossus originated in Australia. Allstate bought it from Australia and brought it to the United States. At the same year, I beat that Supreme Court, and that's when they called me to help consult with them. So I've got a background that extends where it needs to be to have created a product like this, which is why I say it's quite a testament, and no other consultant has actually created personal injury software, anything that can counter Colossus, nor have any other consultants partnered with EHR companies. And our objective here is to give you the core competence to counter Colossus, to counter unfair claims acts, to eliminate varying opinions. When adjusters and IMEs dispute, deny your claim factors, what can you do? What do you do? And in a moment, I'll tell you this. But I'd like to jump over here to something like this and tell you that if you want to get attorneys to switch brands and use you over your competitors, there's three things you've got to do. One of them is you've got to be able to say, look, if you use me, these are the benefits I'm going to get. Now, I want to ask a lot of you, what do you say when you meet with attorneys? What can you say that as soon as you're done, the attorney would say, I'm immediately going to refer to you? Is there anything you could say? How many meetings with attorneys have you had? How many luncheons have you had? Now, most doctors talk about their great staff, their convenient location, their high-tech treatment options, without realizing that does not constitute a unique selling proposition. That would not cause an attorney to switch the referral sources and use you instead. The truth is this: you should be the number one most preferred and sought after medical legal expert in your community if you could solve their problems. Right now, there's still too many MDs that think orthos and neuros are better until they experience Zeus. I have one attorney, he produced a letter for us that I sent to all the EHR companies so that they could see. This attorney says he did not know the vast differences from normal doctor's records and the Zeus system until he experienced it. On every single one of his cases, he's gotten over 5 times increase in offers, resubmitting claims using Zeus, but the doctor stepped up and reevaluated using this and was able to input added decision points that translate into dollars. There are 67,880 decision points that Colossus will rate and value. The formula they use is called the decision point to dollar translation percentage multiplier. Standard electronic record systems miss 80% of those Colossus decision points. This attorney put this in a letter. He said, after experiencing doctors that use Zeus, he will never refer to an MD again, only doctors that use Zeus. So, what can you offer or say to an attorney to get him to switch brands and use you every time? Do you really think your location matters? Do you think they care about your staff? But the thing is that they want to know what you can do different that can fix their problems. What are their problems? The first problem they got is low settlement valuations. You've got to be able to include the decision points in the right language, format, and sequence so you can transfer that complex data to interface into Colossus and input added value. When a decision point is input into Colossus, Colossus will determine a range of values for that decision point. There are already set aside values for injuries. For example, you've all heard of alteration of motion segment integrity or ligament tear. There is a set aside value of the insurance companies of $66,000 for that injury. When is the last time you diagnosed that and your attorney got $66,000? Zeus claim will compel the adjusters to pay that amount when your lawyer and you work together using this system. And that's going to absolutely cause an attorney to refer to you. So you've got to be able to help them. Other problems that they have are that there's a lot of denials from adjusters and IMEs. There's second guessing of medical opinion. There's downgrading of injury severity type, downgrading of injuries. I told you one of the things they do is they manipulate trauma line. They drag the severity points. They reduce the severities to a non-rateable action. These are the things that you're doing, and you've got nothing to counter it. So what if you could get every attorney you approach with our script to refer you every case he has with low settlements and every case he has with low ball offers? That's just a start. You may not get all of his brandy new patients, but for every case sitting on an attorney's desk with problems, low settlement valuation, obstacles, disputes, denials, you can now take them and overcome those obstacles. What we're going to teach you is the process of independent medical validation, which case law has established will override IME. IMV will override IMV. The fee for that starts at $2,000 for a 1-hour process. I don't know if you're using the new exam codes 1191M, which commands $520.22 according to government sites. That's a special injury model impairment examination done by the attending physician on 1 to 3 body parts. That's the exam you'll do when you come to the seminar and you learn the Zeus process. And when you're done with this, attorneys are going to be coming to you for your opinion. And if you've seen the Dr. Tim Ware video, he'll tell you after doing a great job for 35 years, it's the first time in his career that now the attorneys in his area are coming to him for his opinion. I can tell you that there are numerous attorneys that are coming to him just in the first few weeks that he got on the program because he was able to tell them what he could do, number one. So you solve their litigation obstacles. You enhance settlement valuation. Number two, you save them 50% of their legal time and spend. Number three, you can do something that others in the community can't do and aren't doing. And lastly, it's so powerful, they've got no choice but to use you. So these are the tools you're going to walk away with. How much paperwork do you have to send to your attorneys right now? With Zeus Claim, you know something? You're going to do away with all the paperwork. It's all electronic and everything's gone through the clouds. The entire medical file that you have will be assembled automatically in the correct language, format, and sequence. When you press a button, it'll assemble the impairment categories. It'll assign injuries that are static and stable. Another thing I want you to know is this. If you've been giving a generic prognosis overall, Colossus will downgrade your case by 20 to 25% of its value. Now, you're supposed to give a prognosis for every single body part involved. Here's an example. You sprain your wrist in the steering wheel. You sprain your ankle jamming on the brakes. You bruise your shoulder by banging against the door, and you herniate a disc in your neck. How can you give a prognosis overall for that? Each one of those injuries requires its own prognosis. So get used to making individual prognosis for every body part, organ function, or system that's involved. And when you give a prognosis, it cannot be good, bad, poor, guarded, clinically unstable. Colossus wants the degree of reasonable medical probability for future recurrence of each injury on a scale from 0 to 100. If you don't know how to assign those, the Zeus software will do it for you automatically. When you give an MMI, it's the same thing. They don't want a generic MMI. They want to know, well, what's the MMI for the herniated disc? What's the MMI for the wrist sprain? What's the MMI for the headache? What's the MMI for the traumatic brain injury? Has the anxiety or the loss of appetite or the depression or the sleep disorders resolved or not? So there's a lot of paperwork that could be involved. There's a lot of assembling that's got to be done. And with Zeus Claim, it's all done automatically. And when you're ready to send your file to the attorney, one click of a button, and it goes through the clouds, and it goes into the attorney's email, and everything's already assembled. He doesn't have to read a file, doesn't have to translate, doesn't have to dictate, doesn't have to do anything. All your findings will be assembled for him in the right language, format, and sequence that will interface and input added value. You also will be giving the attorney a demand format software for free for him to use, and it allows him to plug in the administrative, legal, and economic factors. It's become so powerful that even Westlaw told us that they've never seen anything like it in the industry before. Lawyers from around the country fall in love with it. You'll be sending them everything already assembled, and then all they've got to do is plug in their value factors. You see, the thing is, there's nothing that can be done about the administrative, legal, or economic factors of a claim. Only the medical factors. Like I said, 80% of what could add value to a claim has been missing in your record system. So that's what you're going to get with Zeus. That's going to input added value. That's going to make the difference. I don't know if I mentioned narratives, but the insurance companies created business process improvement called BPI, and since then, narratives are no longer admissible as evidence. You know what that means? It means adjusters don't have to read them, so they don't read them, they throw them in the garbage. Where does that leave you? Well, you still need a report, but it's got to be a special report, and we're going to show you that report at the seminar. And if you use Zeus, you can click a button, and Zeus will produce it to replace the narrative. You need to give the adjusters what are called triggering factors. So if you have an MRI, not only will they not accept a narrative, but they will not accept MRIs as evidence or radiology reports. So if there is a herniated disc, you've got to take it off the MRI report, put it into your medical records. You've got to say that herniated disc constitutes a specific disorder of the spine. You've got to say in the 5th edition, it's from this chapter, it's on this page, it's in this table. And then you've got to say, this is the formula that converts that into an impairment. It's got to be in your files. It's got to be converted from the radiology and the MRI report, put into your medical records, and then it's got to be placed into the specific disorder of the spine category and given an impairment rating. You'd have to be a teacher. Even teachers can't do all this. You need a software. Karen Krieg is an attorney from Bellevue, Washington, who's litigated dozens of cases against Allstate, and she says it's sinister and surreal that a computer like Colossus can be the arbiter of human life. She says you can't compete with a computer without a computer, and now Zeus competes with Colossus. You know, we're about 100%. I'm going to say I only know of 100% success we've had in this in the last 6-year beta test. We have not lost because the only way that an adjuster can deny at this point is to completely omit the factors of the claim. And that is an unfair claims act punishable by a $100,000 fine. And guess what? Zeus will even determine when the adjusters engage unfair claims act. There are 13 of them. And when you confront them or the IMEs with this, they have to back down and reverse their opinion. And that's how we're enhancing settlement valuation. The good news is Zeus Claim is going to replace the narrative. Zeus Claim is going to produce the report with one click of a button that will compel the adjusters to input the data. And it does it by putting it in the right language, format, and sequence. So as the adjuster goes down. So Colossus is going to bring up questions. For example, if you got neck pain, Colossus will bring up pop-up questions. Does it radiate? And then it's going to bring up drop-down boxes. And it's going to relate the radiating pain to the mechanism of injury, to the fact as to whether or not that there's been pressure put on the nerve root, if it's turned into bleeding, if it's scarred, if it's caused perineal fibrosis, or peripheral nerve entrapment, or injury to the root, or to the plexus. And Colossus is going to ask all those questions. If they're not in your SOAP notes, it can't be input and you'll lose the value. So you've got to change the way you're recording injuries and to meet the Colossus guide so you can input values. So I'm happy to say that we're going to save you a lot of time and effort in this as well. Now, we've proven to many of the electronic health companies who already had their own system that by partnering with us, they're only going to make things better for everyone. And that's what they want to do for their clients. Those EHR companies who have partnered with us really have a concern for their clients because they want you to have the best. And they didn't mind admitting that Zeus Claim is the tool for personal injury. I can't tell you everything in this video, but if you would just take a look at the entire syllabus and you can see for yourself why only Zeus Claim and only this seminar can give you everything that you need to have the core competence and USP of a Colossus that required of a Colossus claim. So listen, are you willing to attend this seminar, or would you rather keep doing what you're doing? You could be missing out on the business opportunity expansion of the entire profession ever. I think it's the best time to be in personal injury now, especially with reimbursement dropping in other areas, especially with questions about Medicare. So I wanted to give you just a little bit of an overview of some of the things you can get and some nuggets that you can take back. Like from now on, you know what language to put in when you do have a bulging and herniated disc. You know that you need double-digit diagnoses. You know people can now suffer anxiety, depression, loss of appetite, and sleep disorders that can be converted into impairments. And when those exist with burning sensation pain, the diagnoses can be upgraded. There is... I tell you what, if you're as excited as I am about being the best practitioner, about having the best core competence, that alone is enough to get attorneys to take heed and recognize you. Now, you want to talk about attorney marketing? All you have to do is educate them. We have so many ways to educate attorneys. In fact, not only do we send them weekly electronic material, but we have a phone room that calls them, talks to them, sets up meeting, gets you to be invited over to produce PowerPoint presentations, which when you have Zeus Claim, you get for free. The same presentations I use when I meet with attorneys. I wish I had more time. The way we can have more time is if I see you at the seminar. I promise when you walk away, you will immediately be able to implement all of these factors that not only will make it better for your patients, get them more money, solve the attorney's litigation obstacles, save you and the attorney time and money, but if you still have practice goals and personal lifestyle goals, if you still want to do for yourself, your family, and your staff, invigorate, rejuvenate, please come to the seminar and let's get started. I'm really known to motivate people and stir people up with a street style of delivery, but I'll tell you something. I'm fed up with insurers, with IMEs. I'm fed up with Unfair Claims Act. I don't want anybody to second guess my opinion. You know something? I found a way by case law. There are 72 instances of case law that I will teach you that will show you how your opinion will be accepted as choice given a greater weight. If you don't know how to do that now, and no one teaches that, this PI Master Seminar is going to instruct you in an entirely new process of assessing a case and putting a case together so that when it is submitted before the authorities and they have to say whose side carries the greater weight, it'll be no longer a question. Your side will have a stamp and it'll give you the greater weight. Isn't it time to eliminate adjusters and IMEs from challenging your opinions, from disputing, from denying, from discounting? Isn't it time to stop attorneys from asking you to cut your fees? If you give them what they want, you'll get what you want. So if you've got enough in you right now that you want to just change the way you do business and set the world on fire through personal injury, let me see you at that seminar. I promise when you walk away, you'll have something so brand new you wish you were here 7 years ago. All right, I'm Dr. Frank Liberti. I hope to see you at one of our upcoming seminars. Okay, Herman.
Where's your next one?
I'm out.
Well, you were working very hard on this one. This was actually 20 minutes that you talked
Yeah,
up
you
there.
know what? What the hell?
Frank, I would wonder if maybe you do